people? Welcome back to FMall. It's me, Anwar. So, if this is your first time here, FMall is, on one hand, a nod to the James Baldwin quote you saw at the intro. On the other hand, it is a nod to my pledge to keep you no longer than 15 minutes. Let's talk about some stuff that's happening in the world, talk a little bit about what's happening in DC, talk about what's happening in Nevada, where I live. Hopefully, I can make you a little bit smarter, and I can do that in 15 minutes or less. That stated, let's get to it, shall we? To start off, this week we have the anniversary of 9/11. And of course, everyone knows that thousands of people, more than 3,000 people, lost their lives on that day. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was home in bed. I was on post-deployment leave. I had ironically just gotten back from Saudi Arabia. And I remember getting the phone call. Well, I don't remember getting the phone call because I slept through that. Someone ended up knocking on my door, and it was my coworker, his wife, telling me, "Hey, Anwar, call your mom." And I call her, and she's like, "You know what happened? How do you feel about what happened?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she goes, "You know the Twin Towers?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "They ain't there no more." My first thought was that David Copperfield had done a magic trick, y'all. I was a 21-year-old kid with a pregnant wife. Like I said, I had just gotten home from Saudi Arabia, and so I remember the concern I had about the fact that, or the possibility of going back. And thankfully, I didn't have to go back. I never had to go back. But in remembering the thousands of people who lost their lives on that day, let's not forget the thousands, the untold thousands, who lost their lives in the wars that resulted from it. So, however you choose to remember it, um, be safe. Be safe. In the years since that event, we've watched the country change drastically. You know, in some ways for the better, in some ways for the worse, in some ways not at all. But however you choose to remember it, be safe. Let's talk about some stuff on a national level, shall we? Over the past few weeks, we've watched things get worse and worse for farmers. In Arkansas, in particular, farmers are struggling so badly that they have started petitioning Donald Trump for financial relief. Uh, Quite a few of them, they are afraid of not being able not only to maintain their farms, but they're afraid of not being able to pass their farms on to future generations. It is a very, very serious concern for a lot of these farmers. Between inflation and historic flooding, a lot of them are actually losing money on every acre they plant. And the reason I mention Arkansas, and I don't say this to gloat, but Arkansas, and by default, Arkansas farmers largely voted to elect Donald Trump president in 2024. They celebrated it. They were happy. Make America great again, right? Since then, sweeping ICE raids have depleted much of their workforce, so they have no one to work their farms. But they voted for this, y'all. Then tariffs. Tariffs ran off the main folks that they were exporting to. I guess their main importers. But again, they voted for this, y'all. They voted for these things. And strangely enough, some of them believe that eventually the tariffs will start to work. Listen, y'all, for every person that likes to post how much money tariffs have generated, that's like posting your bank advertising how much money they raise in overdraft fees. Stop doing that shit. Some of y'all are silly. But then Arkansas isn't the only state, y'all. Like I said, I use them in particular, but they're not the only state. In fact, across the US, it's estimated that farmers are going to experience a labor shortfall of over 400,000 jobs. Again, I take no joy in seeing these people suffer, but I refuse to let them forget they voted for this.
Now you motherfucking farmers want to try some shit. You fuck around.
You hated that woman, that black woman. You hated her more than you loved your farm. You hated her and folks that look like her, and even your workers. You hated them more than you loved your own children.
Consequences and repercussions.
I take no joy in seeing people suffer. But at the same time, if you stick a fork in the wall, are you really shocked at what happens? That was fucking awful. So here in Nevada, y'all, Governor Lombardo is expected to announce his candidacy for a second term soon. And the timing couldn't be worse, if you ask me. The state is still recovering from a cyber attack a couple weeks ago. He still isn't saying a whole lot about it. He's still hiding. Then again, this isn't really a surprise because this is kind of what he does, but it has been interesting, for a lack of a better term, to watch him kind of dance around the accountability. Again, not a big surprise. Nothing is his fault. Nothing is his responsibility. But then, what would you expect from the sheriff who said he should be governor because crime was a problem?
What the hell are you talking about?
Once again, dude can't show up in a crisis, but he can show up for the checks.
That's yours, motherfucking punk ass friend.
Again, this is where I remind you to follow my folks at Nevada Megaphone, because 2026 is coming soon. Do not forget how he had a chance to address the housing crisis. He said no. He had a chance to help more Nevadans become homeowners. He said no. He got hit by a cyber attack. Could you find him? No. But he was able to show up for the checks. Do not forget that. Again, follow my friends at Nevada Megaphone. Stay plugged in. I want to talk about something. To me, it's a little heavy. To you, who knows? But let's get to it, shall we? There was another shooting, and this time it claimed the life of a prominent figure. A figure who was actually against preventing gun violence. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. If you don't, you'll know soon enough. And the truth is, personally, I was in no way, shape, or form a fan of this individual. I didn't agree with much of anything this person said. However, personally, I can take no joy in what happened to this person. You can't be against the death penalty, but then celebrate vigilante executions, regardless of who the target is. So personally, I take no joy in this news at all. At the same time, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm mourning either. Because while some are celebrating and some are mourning, no one is acknowledging that the real problem still exists. The problem that claimed this person's life still threatens ours because the problem is still the fucking guns. Listen, I know the shit that this dude said. I know the shit he used to talk about. And yes, it's easy to blame his rhetoric. And it feels good to do that, I know. But the reality is gun violence, regardless of who it claims, gun violence is still an issue. Gun violence is still the issue. And if we were serious about acknowledging that, because I feel some people getting ready to say, oh, no, that ain't it. If we were really serious about acknowledging that, we would be so much angrier about the fact that children were shot at school again on the same fucking day. Listen, y'all. Friedrich Nietzsche said, "He who fights with monsters might take care lest he thereby become a monster." Y'all, let's not lose focus. Let's not become the monsters that we fight every day. Because the people watching on the sidelines, they already have a hard time telling the difference. Let's not make it harder. Damn. I told y'all that was heavy. And it's about time for me to get out of here. So, as always, thanks for watching. Again, don't forget to follow my people at Nevada Megaphone. Until next week. Damn, I didn't even get to talk about basketball. That's all right. We can do that next week too. Until then, remember, drink your water, brush your tongue, watch your goddamn mouth. Aces in 5. Bitch. I'll see y'all next week.